All right, so now let's go through some intermediate level functions for the chapter calculation and insert. So watch window. Watch window really helps you keep a close watch on any number that you need. So example, in this spreadsheet, we have total sales of 36,170. On the same spreadsheet, let's say from another source of data, I'm getting only 36,000, which means if I compare these two numbers, 36,170 minus 36,000, I have a difference of 170. But this is only one spreadsheet. But let's say if you have hundreds of spreadsheets and now there are so many variances and you cannot keep track on everything that easily. So watch window is what really comes in handy. So what you would do is, so to open watch window, all you have to do is press Alt MW. Once you press Alt MW, you can go to Add Watch. And for this Add Watch, you would simply click on this number where you have the exact difference, and you would say Add. Now we have another number over here. So let's put another watch here. This is my final sale. I would say 36,140 minus 30,443. So now let's say I want to add another watch here. So I would say add another watch. Click on this number. And so now these two differences you can easily see and wonder over here. So now let's say because any reason there was a change in data. Let's say Grace goes away from the list. All the differences change, even though differences are changing on this spreadsheet. You are still able to see this data, and you can add watch window on even under the spreadsheet. Even if you make changes on one data, you can still have one watch window which tracks every single variable which you want to watch closely. For accountants, auditors, this is a very handy tool, where if you're working on a balance sheet, P&L, or statement changes in equity, you can always make sure that all your accounts reconcile to each other. All right, so now let's move on to precedents and dependents. So precedents is a cell that provides data to a formula, and dependent is a cell that contains a formula which refers to other cells. So what that means is, if I want to see the precedents for the cell, G2, I would press Alt-M-P for precedents. This shows me that 6,000 is multiple of 5 and 1,200. Now I want to analyze. Are there any dependents? What that means is this number being used anywhere else in the formula? So I would press Alt-M-D. And now this shows me that 6,000 is being used in formula over here. So now let's say if I click over here F2, this shows me that this shows total sales for Mark and Bob. So this is 6,000 plus 8,000. So these precedents and dependents really allow you to see how a number is formulated, and if that number is dependent and follows through into another cell, into a formula. And now if I want to remove these arrows, I will simply press Alt-MAA. All right, so now let's discuss evaluate formula. To evaluate formula, all you have to do is go to the cell where you have a formula and press Alt-MV. This will show you how the formula is laid out. So we can see this is price multiplied by quantity. Now if I hit evaluate, it will calculate the first component, which is 1,200. And then if I hit evaluate again, it will show this is 1,200 multiplied by 5. And then the final number comes to 6,000. So you can have gigantic formulas which have multiples of 10 different cells. So using this function really eases up to evaluate how the numbers are being formulated. Now moving on to quick filter, there are several ways to filter the cells. So one quick way is simply press Ctrl-Shift-L. It will automatically detect the table. And we put the filters on, but sometimes data could be complex. You always run a risk that it may not pick the correct filters because of the data layout, in which scenario you can manually select the table and then press the keys Alt-AT, another way to do it. If you press Alt-AT again, it will remove the filter, or you can also use the function ALL-the-FF, which basically comes from Office 2003 and 2007, which you can still use if you're more user-friendly window shortcuts, and similarly to clear all the filters, you can use Alt-AC, and another shortcut is Alt-DFS. Or you can just simply press Alt-DFF again, and the filters will be gone. If you want to do any advanced filters, then you would use the function Alt-AQ. advanced filter allows you to define range, and along with a defined range, it can also allow you to identify any criteria which you want to use. Then the filter dropdown is another very handy function, which you need all the time. So let's say you have a filter on this table. And now all I want to do is quickly just scroll through the list so I can press all down, and it opens this up, and I can make any selections I would want. That if I only want to see Bob and Charlie, I can just select these and see those filtered results. So filter dropdown is really handy shortcut. Then remove duplicates. What that means is, let's say if you have a list of several names, where we can see Mark is appearing twice now, I can see him thrice. So if I want to remove all the duplicates, all I would do is select everything within the table, which you want to include in the selection, then press Alt-AM. And it would say Select All. Just click OK, and it says 2 duplicates found. So out of 3, delete. Now we have only 1 mark, so no more duplicates. So if you have data where you have several duplicates, this shortcut will really make your life easy to delete the duplicates. Then moving on to sorting. So sorting, there are several ways. In some scenarios, you simply want to filter. I would say sort the data A to Z. So you would simply press Alt-HSS. What this does is this filters the data from A to Z. Now let's say if you want to do Z to A, you would say you would press Alt-HSO. Now it filters Z to A. Now let's say if you want to do more custom sorting, then you would press Alt-H-S-U. Once you press Alt-H-S-U, this will allow you to custom sort based on any of the headings. So let's say you want to start with sorting by name A to Z, and then you want to filter sort by product from A to Z, and then let's say you want to filter by the final price, high to low. So this could be one way of sorting. So this shortcut gets really handy where you have multiple layers of data. So let's say you're looking at a population where you're looking at West Coast, East Coast, North Coast, and South Coast, and you want to filter the data by North first and then South. So check reference error is really helpful whenever you have an error on your spreadsheet. So what you do is if you have any spreadsheet and you're in doubt there might be any reference errors, all you have to do is press Alt-MKC. And once you press Alt-MKC, you can exactly see where the error comes from. So once you click on it, you can see there's an error over here. So if you analyze the formula, it seems like it's grossing up. Sales from Bob, Charlie, and David, which is 4,000, 8,000, 1,800. But then it adds the cell B40, which means it's adding the same cell into itself. That's why the formula comes down to 0, which shouldn't be the case. So now to fix this error, what you would do is you would simply press Alt-MKC, see the error in the formula, and then correct the formula to delete the same cell reference which was in the formula. So now you have the correct total. And if you press Alt-MK, you would also be able to see a trace error function. Now let's go through the paste function, which is also called as insert function. So let's say in this example you have final price for all the customer sales and it comes to $34,941, but now you want to analyze what's your average sale price. So what you would do is you would press Shift F3, which will open up the insert function where you can select average. Okay? And then you would define the population for which you want the average. You can have multiple criteria. Let's say you have multiple sources of data. For Northwest East, you can take averages of all the populations to look at a centralized average. That's all for now. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon.